Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
All right, welcome back to this fifth Ready Colorado gubernatorial town hall. My special guest this evening on my left is former congressman and current gubernatorial candidate. That's why he's here. Tom Tancredo, here with his dog as well, the brains of the operation. And we're going to talk a little bit more about education just briefly, and then we're going to move on to some other topics. And I want to bring on a caller here, Tom, who I believe has a question for you. Hey, good evening, Tom. You're on with Ross. What's your question for Tom Tancredo?
Yes, Mr. Tancredo.
Sir.
The union government schools have been very successful in producing a number of students that are completely uneducated, and I'm able to hire very low wages. The addition of the immigrants, I have not raised the wages I pay for manual labor for 20 years. Why shouldn't I like that?
I'm sorry.
So,
the question came
Can
in
you
sort
try
of
repeating the
garbled.
question quickly, Tom, because you're breaking up?
The union schools and the immigration has caused a huge supply of manual labor. So I've actually been able to lower what I pay for manual labor over the last 20 years. Why is that not good for me? My children were homeschooled, so they just employ these pseudo-slaves that the government schools put out. Why is that not good for me?
Well, it may be good for you. It's not good for the rest of the society, of course. And I know you're being facetious here.
Right.
But the reality is this, that the greatest problem I have ever faced in terms of trying to deal with the issue of immigration reform, true reform, came from two sources. One was the Democrat Party that saw illegal immigration and legal immigration, massive immigration of low-skilled, low-wage workers as a replenishment of their voter pool. The other problem I had was the same exact phenomena was seen by the Republicans as a replenishment of their cheap labor supply. And so you never had the ability, when you've got those two huge blocks against you in Congress and, well, you know, right now, certainly in Colorado as I run for governor, that's going to be a big issue. It is very, very difficult. But the reality is you may benefit, but I guarantee you the rest of us do not, because the less you pay in wages increases your bottom line. Great. But you know what? All of the people that you hire and are paying lower wages to do a couple of things. That one, they depress wage rates for everybody else out there, especially minorities who are the ones that are on the lowest rung of that economic ladder. They depress wage rates. They restrict job entry. And as a matter of fact, they cost us billions of dollars. Illegal immigrant and even legal immigrants operating at that low level, that, as I say, low skill, low wage level, end up costing us because they don't pay their, quote, fair share of taxes to support the infrastructure costs that the rest of us have to provide.
So let me jump in here. I have a couple things I would like to follow up with you. And by the way, folks, if you're listening on the phones and you want to ask a question, *3 to ask a question of Tom Tancredo. Tom, what is your view of legal immigration? I realize the governor is not a federal job, and we'll get to the sanctuary city question, kind of where it applies here in Colorado. But what is your view of legal immigration? If it were up to you, would you restrict legal immigration into the United States of America?
I would, and I would do so on the basis of what are our needs. The immigration system I would like to create is one that allows people to come into this country based on our needs. That is to say, what skills are we needing? You know, is it engineers, doctors? If Obamacare continues, we're going to probably need a lot of doctors, right, from everywhere. Whatever our needs are, not the needs of the world out there, but our needs as a nation. That's how our immigration system should be established. And it should not be based on family unification or any of the things that are extraneous to the idea of our needs in this country. And in terms of numbers, I will tell you another thing. What worries me is the fact that we have massive immigration into a system that has completely and totally abrogated its responsibility to encourage assimilation. Without assimilation, Ross, immigration is a problem. With it, it's no problem. We have assimilated people from all over the world, every color, every background, you name it, because the assimilation process was working. It was working for the people who wanted to come in and become a part of the American experience, and it was working on the part of the people here who were demanding it, essentially. And so my grandparents, right, all four from Italy in the 1890s to Denver. Weird, I know. I mean, usually it's in New York, but, no, they all came here. All right, well, for whatever reason, they came here. We used to go out Sunday morning, pick up my grandma and grandpa, take them to church. This is North Denver. We took them to church. We picked them up. They lived on 44th and Lowell. Go to St. Catherine's Church, then go to a little lunch, then go for a drive. Now, that was a big deal. Right? We go to like Westminster. Oh my gosh, stop the newspaper, board up the windows. We're going to Westminster. But we would go for a drive. About 3:00, we'd end up at Dairy Queen over on 38th and about just off of Lowell. And I think it was the first one in Denver. And just about then, my grandparents, who were sitting in the back, and we had no air conditioning. It was hotter than blazes in the summer. They would get into a fight about something. And my grandfather would immediately lapse into Italian in this argument. But I still remember to this day my grandmother yelling at him, "Speak American, damn it."
So now, look, I read a lot about immigration and all the data and see these numbers, and I think the lack of assimilation is overstated. I think what happens, you get a lot of people on TV who want to stand out there, speak Spanish, and wave a Mexican flag, and it annoys people, and I get them. But I don't think assimilation is, on a percentage basis at least, a lot worse than it used to be. I having read all this stuff myself, but I understand why it bothers people when it looks like they want to be separate. I get that.
I do not remember any marches, any demands, anybody in the streets waving other kinds of flags and demanding separate activities, demanding that in the school system they be taught in their language, in their mother tongue. I don't remember that from past.
Yeah, and I'm not okay with that either.
Okay, good.
And I think that's
but it's an indication of the lack of assimilation.
Let me bring another caller on the line here. Let's go to Kathy. Hey, good evening, Kathy. You're on with Congressman Tom Tancredo, or former Congressman Tom Tancredo. What is your question for Tom?
I wanted to know his position on the sanctuary city issue, and you were just talking about immigration. I agree completely. We're not seeing the people assimilate. We're seeing little groups in their specialized neighborhoods, and they're not trying to be Americans, and that should be the prize. That's what they're all coming here for. So why? I don't think they're coming for the prize anymore. They're coming to infiltrate and not to and to take over, basically, not to assimilate. So it can be.
All right, so thank you, Kathy. Just in the interest of time, I think Tom understands your question.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree that there is a significant lack of assimilation. And I will tell you, I think it comes from two ways. I'm not going to say to you that my grandparents and everybody, who came here in the 1890s and 1900s were demanding to be, to assimilate as quickly as possible, although most were, but not all. And so what happened was when you don't assimilate at that time, you don't go up the ladder. There is no real upward mobility unless you did assimilate, especially language-wise. And so they were forced to in certain situations.
Right. So, okay, I don't want to interrupt, but you know the ground rules. And because you're running for governor, I would like you to focus on Kathy's question about sanctuary city, which is something the governor would really have more influence on than federal immigration policy.
Okay, first let's do this. Let's penalize Denver for being a sanctuary city, not just a sanctuary city, but a sanctuary city on steroids that actually passed a law just a couple of weeks ago that said if any employee of the city of Denver, including the police, are caught communicating with ICE, cooperating with ICE, they could be 1, fired, 2, fined, 3, put in jail. Okay? This is incredible to me. Up to $1,000 fine, be fired for actually obeying the law? This is unbelievable. And so, yeah, if Governor, I will tell you this right now, I will look at every single way I can. I have open to me through the budgeting process to penalize Denver and Boulder and any other city that refuses to obey the law and that encourages lawlessness in their own communities. Absolutely. And then I would do another thing. I would push for legislative action to abolish sanctuary cities. And if I couldn't get it through the legislature, because let's face it, I don't know if we're going to have a Republican legislature, but if I couldn't get it there, then I would do everything I could as governor to put it on the ballot as an issue for the people, because I believe the people of this state don't want sanctuary cities. They don't want to have their lives and the lives of their community, people in their community, put in jeopardy by cities who are so incredibly, quote, politically correct or pandering to a particular group to put their lives in danger. I mean,
do you know, Tom, of any mechanism right now by which a governor would have leverage over a city?
I do.
So can you just briefly tell us what that might look like?
It is called line item veto. Okay? Now the governor has that ability to line item veto anything in the budget bill. Now, you can't, it's complicated. And I can't, for instance, I couldn't just simply restrict all of the money that goes to Boulder by a line item. But you could take specific things, very specific items that go to a city, and you could strike them out of the budget bill. And that is a way of at least getting their attention. And then, who knows, you could use that to go to the people and say, do you want to, eliminate this kind of problem at the state level? Here it is. Let's go after and abolish sanctuary, make it illegal to have a sanctuary city. And you know what else I would do, Ross? Although this would be tough. I admit this. But hey, what the heck? Why not try? I would like, and there was a bill like this in the state legislature. I went down and testified in favor of it. It said that any public official in the city that actually supports this activity and then has an incident where an illegal alien commits a crime, a violent crime, murder, rape, whatever, that person, the city council person, the mayor, all become personally liable.
So let me ask you a very political question here. You've got positions on lots of issues. You're best known probably for the immigration issue, and we're going to talk about a bunch of other things. But do you think the immigration issue and your view on it, your perspective on it, is a winning perspective in a general election across the whole state of Colorado?
I don't know. I will tell you this. I cannot change who I am, nor do I intend to. If people understand what I'm trying to accomplish and understand it has nothing to do with race, with ethnicity, which is going to be Tancredo's a racist, xenophobe, Ku Klux Klan, you name it. I know it's all coming. But I will tell you, I know who I am, Ross. I know what I believe. I know my heart. And in my heart, there is no animosity, not an ounce of it, for anybody in this world on the basis of their skin color or their ethnicity. I know who I am. And I will tell you, I will try to make that point. I will try my best. Maybe I'll fail. Maybe the other side will be able to paint me as the devil incarnate and as, running around with hoods and white sheets or something. I know they'll try. But all I can do is tell you who I am. And if the people of this state and the Republicans in the state want to nominate me, and then the people of the state want to elect me, they'll know who they're getting, because there'll be no false flags flown in my campaign. If they don't, hey, it's not the worst thing that can happen.
You're listening to the 5th Ready, Colorado Gubernatorial Town Hall. By the way, Ready, Colorado is Colorado's conservative voice for education reform. And if you'd like to learn more about Ready, Colorado, go to facebook.com/ReadyColo. And my guest this evening is former Congressman Tom Tancredo. We got a few more minutes in this segment. I want to let you folks know, in the next segment, our goal is going to be to take as many phone calls as we can on whatever you guys want to ask Tom about. So if you want to ask a question, *3 if you're joining us by phone. Now, so we're going to go from an issue where you and I don't agree very much to an issue where you and I do agree quite a bit, and an issue where you are also, interestingly to me from a political point of view, differentiating yourself early from a lot of other Republicans, and that's marijuana. What is your view on the legalization of marijuana and how that has developed in the state of Colorado since it has become legal?
You bet. Number one, I supported the legalization. I supported Amendment 64. I still do. And I do so on the basis of the fact that it has nothing to do with marijuana, essentially. It's got everything to do with what I believe to be the government's role vis-a-vis my life. All right? I have said for years that as a conservative, my goal in life was to try and reduce the government's influence, control, and dictatorial, I think, kind of control over my life. And every year it grows more and more, and every year I rail against it. And this is a perfect example. I don't smoke marijuana. I have never smoked marijuana. I have never ingested it in any way of which I am aware. Maybe somebody snuck it into something, but I never had any effect from it. So, but that's me, okay? That's me. And I don't want my children to, and I don't want my grandchildren. My children are now, 50 years old, so it's pretty hard to control their activities. But it was pretty hard, by the way, when they were much younger. But I don't want my grandchildren to. I think it's not a benign product. I think it can be harmful. I want everybody to understand that. Just like liquor is harmful, can be harmful if taken to excess. I want people to understand it. But what is my role as the government? What right do I have to tell anybody about what they should ingest?
Okay, so how do you feel about how the legalization of marijuana has played out in Colorado so far?
I am concerned about the increase let's see. There's so many different studies that it is very difficult to determine who's right in terms of what's the usage of youngsters here. The one thing we do know, that 18 to 21 have now taken advantage of the law that allows them to get a marijuana medical card, right? And so you've got 150,000 18-year-olds or 19 with glaucoma. I don't know. I'm just, but certainly it has been taken advantage of. There's a lot of fraud there because it's cheaper, much cheaper to buy it that way. Okay, so that's something we have to, I think, look into. Because my whole thing is this: I don't care. You're 21 years old. I don't care what you do to yourself. I just don't. I hope you take care of yourself. I wish I took care of myself much better. But it's not the government's role to tell me what the hell that is.
Right.
Now, for a child, for someone under that age, that's a different story entirely. And I will tell you right now that to the extent that we can identify what legalization has done in the area of increased usage by children under the age of 21, what mothers smoking it and ingesting that and affecting their fetus when they're pregnant, all those things I absolutely believe have got to be dealt with. And I think, frankly, if an adult gives a child, whether that child is in your body or not, I believe that if they do that, that's child endangerment, and that should be dealt with legally.
You're listening to the 5th Ready Colorado Republican Town Hall. My special guest, former Congressman Tom Tancredo. We are going to take a very short break, 90 seconds only. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure, and then we are going to get to as many of your calls as we can with quick questions, and if Tom will play along with quick answers, we'll be right back here on 630 KHOW.